Well, good afternoon, listeners. You're listening to Lament of Hope podcast, and I'm your host, Danielle Richardson. And I am very excited, and it's an honor to meet with Al Ruggiero. Did I do it right?
Yeah,
He's
that's fine.
nodding. There we go. Um, I probably, he has a very, your first name is Allelon, right? Allelon
Correct.
Ruggiero. Yeah,
Three
it's a
L's.
Yeah, it's a beautiful long name, but it's hard to say on a podcast. But Al's been gracious enough to let me give him the nickname Al, which is he said most people call him because they don't want to say the full name. So that's what we're
It,
gonna go with, so we don't trip it up too much. But
it's easiest that way.
I'm very happy to meet with him today. For those of you who don't know who he is, he's famously known for playing Stephen Meeks in Dead Poet Society, which I think was actually his first like acting gig that was pretty big. Um, and then he's gone on to do a whole bunch of different things in the entertainment industry, but he has an aerial company that he started with his wife. And then he also has a media production company as well, that helps with consulting as well as creating productions. So, Al, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
So, one thing that really stuck out when I was researching, because honestly, I saw this movie a while ago. It was my first time actually with my husband, and he was introducing it to me because I don't think my parents had never shown it to me or anything. And I was really impacted by it, but you kind of looked like this geeky guy in the movie. Um, but I was,
Yep.
yeah, and then I find out you have this aerial circus thing going on. And I was like, how did you get from the acting aspect to wanting to start an aerial and circus company?
Well, it's a few different things. I think the main one was me and my wife many years ago have been talking about trying to do a business together.
Okay.
And we didn't quite know what that business was going to be, but it's something we were interested in doing. So as time progressed, this was probably 15 years ago. Um, as time progressed, um, you know, we discovered that we had a need and even a liking for aerial yoga. I was doing it for my back
Hmm.
over at Crunch. They had aerial yoga classes there, and I was using inversion to kind of help stretch me out and stretch, especially with my lower back. I have some issues there. So, and it's great. It really does. It helps. It literally reverses the aging process and goes against gravity. You know what I mean? We're being pulled down our whole lives this way, and it's nice to be able to flip it upside down and
Yeah.
get a little lengthening of the spine and just help stretch out. That's really what I need more than anything at this stage of my life is just to stretch. And Leia was doing aerial as a workout and some pole classes at Crunch.
Hmm.
And then it dawned on us like, and she has a gymnastics background too. And they were like, hey, what if we could find like a defunct dance studio with semi high ceilings? And we'll do a studio where we do aerial yoga and pole. And that's what we'll offer. Right. And then we'll see what other classes we could incorporate into that. And so we went on this kind of like loose journey through Craigslist and different realty websites and whatnot to try to find a place. And we found one in North Hollywood. It used to be a dance studio. It was a dance studio for many years, and then I think they like turned it into like a suit store. But anyway, it had the semi-high ceilings and a huge wall of mirrors
Hmm.
that was left over, which is a huge, big expense to put those in. And the rent at the time was pretty good. So we just kind of rolled the dice and did it. And once we got a actual rigger in there, someone who knows how to put aerial rigs together, we realized that the rigging was suitable for other aerial training, like silks or lyra or hammock or even trapeze. And we're like, well, if we're going to do all this work to put a rig into the ceiling and we're trying to do a business here, then let's expand this and try to find teachers in all those areas.
Hmm.
And that's what we did. We found there was a dancer by the name of Lee Acosta who really helped us out a lot initially. She was running most of the classes and kind of helped us with our curriculum and how we wanted to run things. And with her and a couple other of the teachers that we had acquired, we were able to kind of come up with a cool schedule. And we ran it out of that space for about 5 or 6 years. And we also in that 5 or 6 years, we realized that there was also a need in the entertainment industry um, for like a basically consulting for that. A lot of people were at the time very curious about what that is, or maybe we can incorporate that into our commercial,
Hmm.
or maybe we can use space for our movie, or how do we get a rig in this space? And we at that point had enough experience with it where we could call a rigger, or we could do it ourselves, or get performers, or get someone to consult on set. And we started kind of dabbling in that. So those 6 years went by, and then we lost that space. Unfortunately, the landlord sold the building, and we almost closed down. We almost called it quits because it was such short notice. Like they wanted us out in like 30 days or something,
Oh,
like get out in a month. And I was very honest with them. I was like, I understand this is it's all business to you, but like me running a business out of here, you telling me 30 days is like kind of you saying, you know, screw your business, like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like it's almost you're putting a nail in the coffin of our business here. It just doesn't give me enough time to transition out of this space and into another one.
Hmm.
And so, they heard that and they did extend our lease out by like another month, which still isn't a lot of time, but 60 days is definitely better than 30. And anyway, we were searching all over Hollywood, all over the place, all over LA to try to find a suitable space. And lucky enough, we found this great space right in the middle of Hollywood, right off of, it's a half a block off of Sunset Boulevard, right next to the Netflix building. It's a really nice location, and it had like 20-foot ceilings.
Oh,
And
wow.
basically, it was just like an over like a glorified garage is basically what it was. It was like a garage with really tall ceilings. And the landlord was desperate in a way to try to get people in there because it was zoned as a commercial spot, but everything around it was residential, so it was a little tough for him because you can't live in that it wasn't like a work live situation, it was just commercial. So excuse me. So we um we took it. We took it right away, and we've been there ever since. Once we moved into that location, we started doing a lot more consultation work on commercials. We did a bunch of shoots for women's health. Um, a lot more consulting started going on, and even helping um, put together performances for schools or businesses, corporate events, things like that. We did a few shows at the Pacific Design Center, and it was nice to be able to kind of coordinate that and sort of work behind the scenes and find work for our performers.
Yeah.
All of our teachers are the performers. So or most of them. And so it was nice to be able to offer that as sort of a side dish for the for our instructors.
Well, it's
Um,
very unique. It's a niche for sure, because I never heard of anything like that before.
it is a niche. It is a niche, and we were able to take that, and then with the talent that that we had assembled, we were able to start producing our own content, our own shows. And they're mostly just theater. It was we did a couple of shows for the Fringe Festival, Hollywood Fringe Festival. And so we did one at our studio, and then we did the following year we did another one at like a theater around the corner, which was basically that one was the first one was Alice, and that was sort of a spin off of The Wizard of Oz and Alice in Wonderland. It was a play. And then the second one was Cirque du Giselle, which is basically the Giselle's the classic ballet. But we
Yeah,
decided to make that into like basically like a Cirque du Soleil show, like an
yeah,
aerial show.
yeah,
And I was able to direct that one. And that was a lot of fun for me. It was really great to see. We had a big cast. We had like 13, 14 performers in that cast. And lots of aerial, there was lots of dance. It's interesting for me because, my theater experience has very little to do with dance. You know,
yeah.
I don't, that's not really my thing. I know more just sort of drama, just sort of straightforward drama, but I'm not familiar with dance. I've been familiar with it in my dealings with the studio, and but I'm not trained in that. I'm not a professional dancer. So what I did is I relied upon, again, like um I basically took two of our instructors and made them into the choreographers. So I would use them to kind of delegate all that movement work.
Yeah.
um so I give them a sort of a general overview of what I would like to see, or the feeling of the scene, and then I trust them to interpret it.
Well, I've always found, I mean, my husband and I went to a concert a couple months ago, and we saw an aerial dancer that they used for one of the songs that was being played. And I mean, we almost cried. And it was just because the body and the movement that a person can do if they know what to do, it's just beautiful. Like the expression that they can convey, whether they're really sad or they're really angry or whatever it is. We even saw the crucible that was done in ballet, and
Oh,
it was incredible. Like you just because the amount of tension that you see and the amount of just everything in your body, like we hold so much tension in our bodies, and then when you see it in an emotional sense, when you're letting all of that emotion come out through it, especially with the aerial dancing, it's just beautiful. That's what I
yeah,
think. So like when you're talking about it's not connected to drama necessarily in the sense of like what you'd typically do, I think we don't realize how much it is dramatic though. So it is interesting because like for you, yeah, you can't dance as well or can't do it as much as you want to, but you do have an eye for drama and you love that. And so that really plays well, I would think, into dancing. It's just interesting that that's the route you went as opposed to
yeah.
just sticking to typical acting.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was a byproduct of the business, so that dictated a lot of that. But I think that you're touching upon something that I really enjoy about, in a way, cinema. Um, as opposed to theater, cinema can sometimes you can show so much emotion with just a look or a gesture. And I think that's something that's very specific to film and to cinema, to movies.
Yeah, because you can be
And
close because of the close up, you
yeah,
mean? Yeah.
your stage could be this. So some of that translates to dance too. It's like I love the fact that you can communicate this emotion or this drama through just movement. That has actually in a way has always fascinated me. I'm a bit of a cinephile. You know what I mean? I love movies. I grew up. That's one of the reasons I became an actor is because I was exposed to a lot of movies as a kid, and so I've always been kind of fascinated with that, especially once I started doing theater in high school, um, and memorizing all the words and the scripts, and you're using a lot of words. You're using a lot of a script. You're really relying upon the script and the written word. And
Yeah.
it wasn't until till later that where I started being lucky enough to work in film, where you realize where a lot of that stuff it's not necessary. You know, it's not really that necessary. Like, as many words as you can cut out of a scene and show them with just a gesture or a look. I mean, that is like less is more,
Yeah.
like it really is. I did a project last year with my friend Dylan Cussman, who was played Cameron in Dead Poet Society. Him and me and Dylan have been friends for years. Obviously since Poets, but once I moved to Los Angeles, he was, I kind of buddied up with him, and we were hanging out and writing stuff together and working on little projects and things. So uh, he presented me with something last year, a proof of concept or a short film, and him and his writing partner Amina Hughes, who was the director. They wrote this script, and I was lucky enough to be kind of let in on it. They would show me their progress, um, and I was able to give them some notes. But when it came down to it, when we got really close to filming it, it was that both me and Dylan were like, less is more, man. I know that like when you're writing something, you become very attached to those words,
Yeah, that's true.
you know, but once you hand those words over to an actor or a director, you have to kind of allow them to interpret it and even cut it if necessary. I think you have to be open to that as a writer. It's tough. I've written stuff that I want to hear the actor say exactly how I wrote it. But then when it actually gets into their brain and that's processed and they spit it out, it doesn't sound quite right anymore. Like it's not quite. Uh, it's almost better like you come up with it now. Like I've handed you this thing. Now you go and you interpret it the way you feel it, the way that it works for you. I think you get better work that way. If you can kind of release that stuff and let your actors interpret it.
Well, yeah, I mean, and also when you write, people can't see it, so you have to be much more elaborate in some ways because you're like painting a whole scene for people,
Right.
because they can't see it. But I
Yep.
I did want to ask you, for what was it? It was in my mind and now it's
It's okay.
uh, yeah, it's like I don't know if this happens to you, but it's like you have a question from something someone said, and then a minute later, you don't want to interrupt them, so you let them keep going, and you're like, I'll come back to that, and then it's gone. And now I remember what I was gonna say is when you said you were a movie buff, you really, or you still are, you love movies. When you were young, did you have a favorite movie that you would watch a lot that just never got boring?
Well, yeah. When I was young, I my first cinematic experiences were Star Wars. and all the Steven Spielberg movies. That's when I was like 9, 8, 10 when those were coming out.
You liked the old,
And
like the first one though?
yeah, yeah, the first one, Star Wars in the theater, or Indiana Jones, that kind of stuff. My father was a total Star Wars fanatic back then. And we went to the theater repeatedly, like probably several times, and watched the original Star Wars, you know. Um,
You didn't, did you have a favorite one? Or you liked all of them the same?
I don't know. I mean, I kind of like, hmm, it's hard to pick like I really just like the very first one. I like Empire Strikes Back too. That's very dark and I like it. But I like the first three, and Star Wars specifically. I like that. It still holds like a now when I watch it, it's almost like watching some sort of nostalgic cartoon, you know?
Yeah, I
Like the
mean, yeah.
right. It feels that way. At the time, it didn't. And when my father and I were going to see it in theater, it was like cutting edge, you know. And in answer to your question, those were my first sort of inspirations, right? Because I was pretty young back then. And my father, much to his credit, he would take me to see everything, even art house films. He would take me to um I remember I was pretty young, so I didn't quite grasp all of it, but like he would take me to go see stuff at like in Philadelphia there was the Theater of the Living Arts, which was a movie theater, it was art house theater, right? And that's where you get all the like what did we go see? Like, he went to that's where I saw Rocky Horror Picture Show, for the first time. And I was like 10, going to the show with him. Or like at the local theater in our little town in New Jersey. Um, I remember him taking me to go see Alien. And I'm like a kid. I'm like a little kid. But he told me later on, he was like, I didn't want you to. He's like, as long as you were with me, I wanted you to see that stuff. I wanted you to be exposed to it because I knew that you had an interest. I could tell that movies excited you. And I feel like there was no reason to really hide that stuff from you. Sure, it's a horror film or whatever, but we watch horror films, and when they come on TV, it's like it wasn't that big of a deal. My father was much more concerned about exposing me to this kind of stuff as opposed to hiding it from me.
What is, what do you think about that? Because I know it's something that I don't know if you've seen this film, but Captain Fantastic, have you seen it?
I have not seen it. No.
So one
Sorry.
thing, no, it's okay. It's one thing, it's with Viggo Mortensen, but one thing that was so interesting about the film is it's about a dad who really thinks that his kid should be exposed to big topics really early. And so
Oh, I
yeah,
do know
so
this. I do know
yeah,
this film.
yeah,
Yeah,
so then his like 5-year-old kid asks him a question about, sex or something like that, and he goes into not super big detail, but he gives him like a medical explanation, and then gives him a book for Christmas that if he's interested he can read it, and he's like, little. And so the audience is like, "Oh my gosh, why would you do that?" But then other people are like, "You know what? I really like that. I think that's a really refreshing take on parenting." And so throughout the film, you see him conflict with other parents because they're like, "No, we
sure.
don't talk about that." And I wanted to ask you, like, when you're talking about your dad taking you to the movies, I mean, obviously, the horror films of then are, in my opinion, a little less horrific than they are now. But
Sure.
was his parenting like that too? Like, was he very much just told you as is, kind of?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you
Yes.
appreciate that? Like, do you think you turned out badly because of that?
That's not the reason I turned out so badly. No, 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 no. No, I think that I'm very much in favor of this, to be honest with you. I think that we don't give kids enough credit for um how much they can absorb and process. Now, certainly you want to keep some things away from them. You know what I mean? Adult oriented material and too much gory violence. That's not good, you know? But like, yeah, I mean, actually, even like questions about sexuality, if they come up, if your kid asks you about sexuality and they're 6 or 7 years old, something to do with sex, you should probably have some kind of answer, you know, because unfortunately, kids are exposed to this kind of stuff. You should have an answer other than let's not talk about that, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
my point, right? Like, oh no, you're too young to. No, you're not too young because you just asked the question, right?
Yeah.
That's if a 6 year old has some kind of question, it's about sexuality. They're old enough to know because they already have the info here. They probably already know kind of what the answer is, but they're coming to you to have some kind of um, discussion, some sort of communication about it, right? They trust you, you're a parent.
Yeah.
So I think that most topics should not be off limits with kids. I think that, you know, children are smart. When I talk to my friends' kids, I try to talk to them like they're adults, like I try to give them that much respect
I
that like,
know, I
hey,
notice sometimes, even when I start out talking to children when I was younger, I used to talk to them like they were dogs or cats,
yeah,
which is
right.
terrible to say. But I was like, let's just like dumb it down. And then I realized that they don't, they actually lose respect for you. But like,
Yeah,
can you just
right.
talk to me normal?
Yeah, just talk. I think that's all kids really want. Like, just talk to me honestly and without, I think we put a lot of these hangups on our kids. So like, let's not do that. If they have a question, let's answer it honestly and not get mad at them for asking. Let's not try to shame them in any way or tell them that essentially, oh, I mean, if you're saying, well, you're not old enough to talk about that, it is disrespectful to them, right? It is disrespectful. Like, as a say if I'm the 6 year old, I'm asking you this question, that I'm coming to you from a place in my brain and my heart where genuinely, I'm being honest with you. Be honest
Yeah,
with me back,
yeah.
right? I want to know about this subject, Dad. What is it? To then just sort of say, well, you're not old enough yet, you know,
Well, I
I
wanted to
think is
ask
I think
you,
it's a bit of a cop out.
yeah, I wanted to ask you, I mean, because I don't think you don't have kids, right? Okay, I just wanted to make sure because, but wanted to ask you growing up, one thing I really appreciated that my parents did, um, is they didn't hide from us what deaf was. And I've come across so many, um, families who are very, like, if someone's mentally ill, or something like that, and, if they do, and unfortunately, if they take their life or something, when it's explained to a child, it's very different. It's like, oh, the person was very sick and they just didn't, get better and they passed away. And it's like, what's that mean? And it's like, oh, I don't, they're just not here anymore, stuff like that. And it was one thing I was really grateful for my parents is like when a funeral would happen, like they would take us to the funeral and not in a, macabre way, but like they would let us see the person in the coffin and explain like this person is gone. They've died. And that, that's what death is. It's unnatural, it's
Yeah.
hurtful, it's painful, but they're gone. And letting you feel the loss and the grief of it as a kid of like, well, that doesn't seem fair, but like being able to hold that weight with it. And even in Dead Poets Society, one thing that struck me is all of the meaningful questions it had about living life and death and all of that. And I wondered with you growing up, did your dad also or your mom, like, did you know, like when you got into that movie with a lot of those heavy topics that were talked about, like, did you already kind of wrestle through some of those as a kid?
Well, I mean, in Dead Poets, we're dealing with mainly, you're talking about suicide. You're talking about teen suicide. Is that what you,
Yeah, but
are
also
we,
there
is
were
that what you specific?
yeah,
Go ahead.
but
I'm
there are
sorry.
also meaningful questions about life, like seizing the day, right?
Oh, yeah.
Living
Yeah,
the
sure.
moment because life, this is life and one day you will die. And what are you going to do with it? And I mean, those are powerful questions. And I just wondered, as a young person, like when you were coming into that movie, had you already thought and considered about those before you'd started acting in that film?
Yes. Um, yeah, to a degree, I had. I mean, in a way, me being an actor is me being allowed to be an actor and go to performing arts school at such a young age is part of that, right? When I was, I'll share this story with you, and I maybe this is the answer to for me personally, but when I was before I moved to Philadelphia, I had been growing up in a small town in New Jersey called Mount Ephraim, and it was very sort of middle class, small town Americana, and I don't know. Well, eighth grade was a transitional year for me, and towards the end of it, I don't know, like I had some bad experiences in eighth grade, and it kind of woke me up to like I started really asking myself larger questions about like what is it that I want to do in my life? Why am I here? At 12 years old. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I had an epiphany and I brought it to my father's attention and I said, "Look, um, I can't go to normal high school. I just can't do it." And this is a bit of a shock because I was just going to go to Audubon High School and across the street. And I said, "Look, I just can't do it. I don't know what it is, but I'm not going to Audubon High." And but I also said at that point I thought about it enough, and I said to my father, "Look, I either want to go to vocational school
Hmm.
for auto mechanics, right, and learn how to fix cars, or I would like to go to performing arts high school and pursue acting." And I kind of was leaning towards the acting stuff, but at that point in my life, the auto mechanic thing would have been fine too. But all I knew at that point is that I could not do normal high school. It just wasn't in the cards for me. And my father decided to do the hardest route, which was send me to performing arts high, which would entails us moving. Like we'd have to pick up from our house and move to Philadelphia,
Wow.
which was where he was originally from, and he didn't like Philadelphia. Like he grew up in South Philadelphia, and that's where we would probably wind up moving back to. And he didn't particularly care for that. He didn't like living in the city, you know. So, so yes, so the me even being allowed to pursue this path um, is, I guess, sort of a comment on how my mom and my dad allowed me to interact in the world going forward. You know, what I mean? My father could have easily said, "Hey, you're going to Audubon High. I don't care what you say. You're going to Audubon High, and that's all there is to it."
Yeah.
And
Or pick the car. I was surprised you didn't say pick the car because most actors will be like, oh, my parents were like, you won't be able to do it. It's really hard. We
right,
want you to make money.
yeah, auto mechanics is a much more solid career choice. But they wanted me to be happy. They wanted me to explore those things that I had a passion for. even if it wasn't the most lucrative path, they wanted me to pursue my dreams.
Yeah.
So,
That's
there's,
that's pretty cool.
yeah, yeah, it is cool. I wish I had a great appreciation for it back then when I was in high school. I wish I could have showed more appreciation for it, but um, but I know I'm very grateful to both my mom and my dad to for supporting me in making that decision. You know, and my mother also, even before high school, she had put me into a few arts camps, and that's kind of where I had found my acting bug. Is in those theater programs, and so I went to Allen's Lane Arts Center, and then I went to the Philadelphia camp for the performing arts, which was a huge performing arts camp that happened over summer camp. And yeah, I mean, I can only say this. I think my parents really wanted, since I had an interest in that, they could tell that I had that sort of interest as a performer, as a young person. They they didn't want to discourage me from that, right? That's what it was more than anything. It's like, we don't want to discourage him. He clearly has a passion for this kind of stuff, and wherever that leads, it leads. And so I'm very grateful that they allowed me to do that, you know. Um,
Yeah.
because without it, I would have never gotten Dead Poet Society. That would have never happened. That getting in Dead Poets was a direct result of me going to performing arts high school in Philly.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine that being your first film, like big film. Like that must have been like, wow.
Yeah, it was mind blowing because with I grew up watching Robin Williams. It was Mork and Garp and Popeye and just there's so many things. I don't know. It was man, it was one of the most amazing experiences ever. Um, and to have to leave my senior year of high school for 3 months to go and do it. Oh my God. Dreams really do come true, like it's like what a great I remember that day too where I booked it or when I officially booked it and I had to and they were like, okay, you're coming down to Delaware for 3 months and tomorrow and go. It's like I had to go and talk to the dean of students and discuss it with him and say, hey, I booked this huge role with Robin Williams and Peter Weir, and I'm not going to be around for the winter, you know? So that was I was so, it sounds weird, but I was proud to do it. I was proud to do it. It was, uh, it was a dream come true, to be
What
able
did
to
the
take
dean
this.
say?
He said, congratulations. I mean, he was
Oh,
excited for me. He was, and no, it's the Performing Arts School of Philadelphia. There's no way that they could look down upon this. This is a huge thing,
yeah.
for one of their students to be involved in. And it wasn't the first time that students had booked real work, but I don't know of anything in that school's history to that point that would have taken the student out for like literally 3 months. Like that was a long period of time. I missed the whole winter session. But yeah,
Well,
they were very helpful. They were very helpful. The dean of students was like, okay, we'll make sure that you get all your plan together. He taught one of the history courses, and you know, um, I will admit to you this though, I had never had a studio teacher before, and there were three of us in the cast who were still in high school, and so in between takes, you had to go to school. And
But you already were in school in the movie. That must have been a
right, like we could literally go from one classroom to another classroom. It's like,
lot.
so yeah, so it was kind of like we were in school the whole time. And we shot at St. Andrews in Delaware, which was a big boarding school. So it still feels like I was in school. I was just in a different type of school.
Yeah.
You know, that was being a part of that movie was one of the biggest learning experiences as an actor that I had ever gotten, to that point. And really, in looking back on it, still is like one of the biggest pieces of experience that I was able to acquire. I acquired right there at 17 from Robin and Peter and Ethan and Bob and all those guys and working with them. That was a um, huge education. It was like I don't know. It was just incredible to be thrust into that world at such a young age and feeling pretty good about it. Like I was scared. I was definitely scared. I mean, the first week we had rehearsals at the hotel, and I remember Robin showed up for a script read through. I was like, and he sat right across from me, and it was just so weird. It was just the weirdest. It was glorious and very strange and intimidating but Robin really, I don't know if he went out of his way to do this, but he made us all feel very comfortable. He made a point of befriending us and trying to be part of the group. It was nice. He was very supportive, and I was scared because I had heard stories about him where like he would steal the show, steal the focus, and I was like, oh my God, how can I ever compete with that? How am I ever going to be able to keep up with Robin Williams? Like that's just not going to happen. So, but he was very generous, and he was you know, he was just such a really sweet individual. I've been lucky enough to work on a few different projects with celebrities, and he's definitely like the most down to earth and nicest that I've run into. Um, it is I don't know. I was very sad when he took his life. It was very, very tragic for someone like that to go out like that. I felt very bad for him.
Well, it seems, I don't know, but it seems like a lot of comedians are the most deep thinking people, actually, even though they
Yeah,
make you laugh and seem so silly, but they actually understand humanity a lot better, and so they can make really good jokes.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, sometimes all that laughter is there and that clowning around is there to, can mask some really dark stuff and some pain, you know.
Yeah,
Um, I know some stand-up comedians, and it's not all jokes all the time. They can be haunted by some pretty dark stuff, but they're able to, in a way, overcome it through their comedy and through exposing, I think, how ridiculous some situations are, you know.
yeah,
Um, I think that a lot of comedians deal with it's kind of like I think for a lot of comedians, comedy is therapy for them. They get up and they're able to express their feelings through their jokes. I love that. I love that.
yeah.
Um,
No, and
it's
it's therapy for a lot of people.
yeah, to listen to, right?
Yeah.
The laugh. Laughing is great medicine. you know. So I I wish I could have. I don't know. It's to be honest with you, I've thought about doing stand-up comedy a lot, but man, it's intimidating. Like I feel like being responsible for making people laugh to, whew. I mean, it's hard enough to try to pull off a good performance as an actor, but then to like get out there and try to like, okay, let me tell you a joke. I mean, it's just gonna be really. I have a lot of respect for stand-up comedians and what they do, and I think that really started with Robin. You know, he actually Robin was a bit. I know that he also was a big fan of comedy clubs. Like he would go out even when we were filming in Delaware. He would go and check out local comedy clubs. In fact, I think he was trying to push me in that direction because he said to me like one time he said to me, I was joking around. You get loopy on set, and I was at lunch and I was doing something stupid with my food or whatever, joking around with Dylan, and it was pure physical comedy. And Robin must have seen me doing this. He said came up to me later and he said, "Hey man, I like your act." And I was like, "What act?" He was like, "The one you were doing at lunch. I like that. It's good stuff." And then and I would joke around with him. And then I remember we came home from set one day, and then we go up to the front desk and get our messages. And so, I checked in at the front desk. And at this point, we knew all the hotel staff, kind of, sort of. And I went out to get my messages, and um, the person at the desk was like, "Oh, yeah. So, yeah, there was one guy who called and he wanted to speak to you, but he didn't leave a message. And I don't know. I just wanted to let you know that he was trying to get you specifically." And I was like, "But they didn't leave a name or a number or a message or anything like that?" "No." So I'm like, in my back of my mind, I'm like, why is this even being told to me? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's not really a message. Like, what do you? And
Someone's
then so
trying to
then
find you in the world.
someone's right. Maybe that was it. I just want to let you know someone's trying to find you. Um, No, so the next day I was on set and Robin was there and he was like, "Oh, hey man, I was trying to call you last night. I wanted to see if you want to go to a comedy club with me." And I was like, "Oh my God, like of all the things to miss, you know what I mean?" Like, and there's no
No,
way around it. I was working, so it's like I can't just like butt out, to go catch a comedy, show with Robin. But man, I would have loved to have gone, and go and hang out with him and hear
no.
his take on what's going on. It would have been great.
Did you give a tip to the front desk when you left the hotel? You should
I,
never do that. If they did not give you good service there. That they
right.
let you miss out on a lifetime
Oh my
opportunity.
God. Yes. Oh, the Radisson. Oh, you screwed me. No, I mean, it's just one of those things. I wish I could have spent that kind of time with him, but back then, especially, I mean, he was hitting it. I mean, that was a huge point in his career, too. He'd just
Yeah.
come off of Good Morning Vietnam, and I mean, he's working solidly and just doing amazing stuff. So yeah, I mean, I was very lucky to spend that kind of time with him. He was a huge influence on me.
Do you have a joke in your back pocket that you can tell? You said you might want to be a
Oh my
stand-up
God.
comedian. Do you
Oh
have
my
you
God.
have to have a joke then if you think you could maybe do that?
Well, wait a minute, hold on, let me say something. I don't think that I can do this at all. I no, I want to preface this by saying um I'm very intimidated by telling jokes and trying to get up and make people laugh. I've done it before, just in a small social circles, and it never works out great. I'm trying to think of a joke. Hold on a second. Oh God.
This is a really small circle, though. This is just me.
Oh
So
yeah,
the
I
bar
know,
can
but
be really low.
oh, I don't know about how. Like, just give me a minute to think about the joke thing because most of my jokes are so gross because it's the only thing that makes me laugh anymore. That let's see. I don't want to tell you really disgusting ones because, you know, I want people to think I have some class. Um,
Well,
God,
yeah,
I can't
because you were
believe.
in Dead Poet Society. Yeah, you can't.
Right.
You can't be
I
anything less than that.
I'm constantly just trying to seek some sort of class in my life. Um, I'm sorry I don't have a great joke for you on the spot. I really don't. I mean, which is funny because like I just watched this documentary called The Aristocrats. Are you familiar
Okay.
with this? Are you familiar
What?
with this joke?
No.
Okay, good. I'm not going to tell it to you because it's really long, it's really disgusting, and but it's classic. Everybody should go and check out The Aristocrats to understand. It's a documentary. It's a
Okay.
documentary.
But this
Okay.
isn't a joke you made.
Oh, it's not. No, it's not. But I think it speaks to stand-up comedy and formulas that work, I guess. It's a horribly disgusting joke, so I'm not going to tell it. I can't. I won't do it.
Okay,
Um,
but is this your type of humor so people know that this is what you
oh
like?
yeah. Yeah, it is. It's my type. It's my type of humor for sure. I just love that. Once you see the documentary, you'll understand. But I just love that it's a joke that can be told many different ways, basically with the same outcome. And every stand-up comic who's worth their weight in salt knows it. They know what it is, and everyone can tell it in their own special way. And it's always, well, not always. Well, in 99% of the cases, it turns out to be equally disgusting each and every time. So it's I don't know, it's a special thing.
I'm
Let me think about the.
intrigued. I'm
Oh, you got to go
intrigued.
check out this documentary. You got to. And honestly, if I tried to tell you the joke, we would spend the rest of this um, program doing just the joke. Okay, like I could go on for probably half an hour with this joke,
Oh
but
my
I'm not going to do that.
gosh.
I know I'm not going to do that to you. I'm not going
Wow.
to do it to you. Yeah.
Well, I
Um,
let me ask you one more question then, because I do want to be respectful of
sure.
your time too.
No, no, no.
Um,
Take your time.
you said earlier that when you were 12, you wondered what the purpose of your life was, and I wondered since you've lived a while, not I'm not trying to say you're old, but
It's okay. You can say I'm
you're
old.
you're mature in years, right? More than me. So you live life, you've experienced hard things, happy things, you've been married, you've been in the entertainment industry, you've had losses and all this stuff. Do you think you figured that out?
And I figured what out? What do you mean?
Like what your
Figure.
purpose in life is?
Oh, what I my purpose in life is.
Yeah,
Oh,
if we were gonna get kind of deep with like a Dead Poet Society feel here, what do you think? What do you think you're
my.
meant to do?
I mean, off the top of my head, my initial knee-jerk reaction was just to be like to help, just to make people happy. To help people find some joy in their lives, to make people think a little bit. It's one of the great things that I love about acting and filmmaking in particular is that you can really influence people's thoughts and make them expand their mind, you know,
Yeah,
expand their consciousness, influence how they think, or maybe have someone think about stuff that's different. If I can if I can do that, then and to if I can do that and I can help people expand their mind and think about the world around them, or maybe just about what's going on inside of them, I can die happy. It's that's I think that is part of my purpose. Is to help people think and to understand the world around them. I hope that's what I'm doing. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to say that as an actor though, because you get so few opportunities to work on stuff that does that,
Yeah.
you know, right? Like it's like, yeah, great. I was in Dead Poet Society, but can I think about any other films that I've done that really tackle big issues? Maybe a couple, you know, maybe
Yeah.
maybe a couple, but it's usually not that, usually, especially when you work in like commercials, which I've done a lot of. Um, I actually spent about 10 years of my life. I had switched gears. I thought I was just going to be I thought I was going to be a commercial producer. That's where I thought I was going to go. But there's a lot of work there and there's a lot of money there, but there's also a lot of stress there in that
Yeah,
job.
I'm sure.
And ultimately, that's what made me step away from that whole career path, is that I was working so much that it started to affect my health. And I would rather I had to switch things up for myself because it's not worth all that. That career path wasn't worth me getting heart trouble or cancer or something like that. It wasn't, which is where I was going. And I also think that as much as I enjoyed working in commercial, especially behind the scenes, there was something there that was lacking. And I think it's what we're kind of talking about here. It's like commercials are cool and they're lucrative, but at the end of the day, we're selling stuff to we're selling things to people that they don't really need. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we're creating 30 seconds or a minute worth of content, we're spending a lot of money on doing it. And what are we selling? A car, some soap, uh, uh, some fashion. There's not that much meaning to it other than money, you know? And it's not all about money. It's just that's not what life is all about. Certainly it is influential and we all need it, but just to have my life revolve around that all the time is just not that fulfilling. So that was the other part of why I had to step away from that career choice because I had filled myself up with like, oh, I'm working, I'm doing this, I'm on set, I'm helping this and doing that, and helping this get done and all that. And that feels very satisfying. But when you have to look at what it is that you're actually producing, it's not that great. It's not and that doesn't mean that it's low budget. We had huge budgets. Some of the biggest budgets around are commercial.
Oh, yeah.
But what am I doing? I'm selling people, a car, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't, you know what I mean? Like you don't really need it. I mean, sure, you need a car, but you don't really need a new car. Like I don't know. It just wasn't that fulfilling to me, to at the end of the day, all that hard work just translated into me selling soap. And so I stepped away from that and I started and I kind of in a way went to acting. And even though there's a lot more uncertainty and a lot less work there, happier. Like there's a trade-off there. I'm a little happier at doing it. Even when acting really bums me out, when I'm not going up on a lot of stuff or I'm not seeing good scripts, um, and I'm poorer for it, it's okay. You know what I mean? Like it's still I still feel like I'm pursuing something that ultimately has some meaning.
Yeah, but it might make you for a better actor because you know what it's like to be just real, live life, right? So that when you get a role, it's not that hard to be that person.
That's
It's
true.
funny, and I don't mean to be mean. There's so many A-list actors that I think do a really great job. But when they play something that they're supposed to be poor or like middle class and just living a tough
Mhm.
life, and you're looking at them and you're like, I'm sorry, bro. It's just not coming
It's,
across. It's not
it's not
happening.
they don't have the life experience to support their character work.
No,
Yeah,
or
well, that's
no, not only that, or when they're like
a
on the screen crying and they're like, I'm such an ugly person, no one likes me, which, is a lot of women, we struggle with like, body image and stuff, and you're looking at them and you're like, yeah, no one looks like you. Like, you look great. Like, nobody's even, we're not there. Like, like, no. When you actually see an actor on screen who's not that good looking, it's incredible. You're like, that's me, represented right there.
Hey, look, Gene Hackman is one of my most favorite actors ever. And I think you're kind of touching on why, it's like, because Gene Hackman looks like he's a plumber,
Yeah, I
right?
know. Yeah, right?
Like, he's not a very attractive man at all. He's looked like he was in his, late 50s since he was 23, like he's always looked that way. But there's a certain, like, I don't know about him. Like, there's this realness to
Yeah.
the characters that he portrays. And I'm sure that comes from some of it's got to come from his personal life. And yeah, you're right. It's like when you're inundated with all these beautiful Hollywood types, it can actually make it somewhat unbelievable. As much fun as it is to look at someone who's attractive, pretty, or handsome, it is fun, right?
It
It's
is fun.
enjoyable.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
it is fun. Absolutely. To see a beautiful woman or a beautiful man, and on screen, you're like, oh my God, Tom Hardy is so hot. Yeah, he is hot. It
Yeah.
is fun. There is something fun about that. But I understand what you mean. It can detract from the story too. It's
Well, that's why
like
I think in part I love Robin Williams so much in a lot of his movies is because and it's not, I'm not saying he's ugly, but he was just a person. Like you would think you would
yeah,
find him anywhere. Like he just looked like someone who could work at your office and
yeah,
he made you cry and laugh and that's what humans do. And so I think, like you said, getting down to that level, it's harder if all the point is to just be really flashy and good looking and stuff. Because, like, life's just not like that, you know?
true. Yeah,
Well, I have to
absolutely.
say, Al, I'm so grateful to have met you. And thank you so much for doing this. And I do hope that the construction in your house completes and it looks beautiful.
Today, yeah, it should be done within the next few days. But thank you. Yeah, it'll be finally I'll have some peace in my home and
Yeah.
not have workmen coming in and out at weird times. But we're nearing an end, and then I can just kind of I'm looking forward to just being able to enjoy my home again without too many interruptions. So,
Yeah. And
but
I
thank you.
hope to see you in more movies. I really do.
Yeah, well, so I'll tell you this. I did a project with Dylan Cussman last year. He's putting some
Okay.
finishing touches on it right now. It's called We Can Never Go Back. It's a little bit of a post-apocalyptic journey, and
Okay.
we're trying to. It's a proof of concept, um, and I know his intention, along with Amina's, is to do the festival circuit, and then perhaps use this to well, the intention was always to make it was a proof of concept to make it into a larger project. So look for We Can Never Go Back, starring me and Dylan Cussman, coming to a film festival near you. There's my
Sounds
plus.
good. That's
There's my plug
good.
for my next project.
I need to look up where my film festivals are. All right, Al, well, have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Danielle. It was a pleasure meeting you. Thanks for
You
having me on.
too. Bye.
Okay.